What's going on, guys? So it is an absolutely beautiful morning, and it has been a while since I've done a driving rant. So if you are you're ready to get some information thrown at you, I think you're going to enjoy this video. And the topic of today's video is why I can legally tow my heavy trailer and equipment without a CDL. Now, this is also going to apply to a lot of folks who tow RVs as well, and I've made videos talking about this in the past. Why, if you are towing an RV, that creates a gross combined weight rating where your RV's weight rating and your vehicle, your tow vehicle's weight rating exceed a certain amount of weight. In certain states, many states actually, you may be required to upgrade your license. But beyond that, a lot of folks are going to wonder, now that they've seen my new Texas Pride deck over trailer, why I'm actually able to tow that, a very commercial looking rig with a very commercial loaded piece of equipment on it like my mini excavator, and not need a CDL. So let's talk about that. Hang tight, I'll be right back. Okay, so today I want to address one of the most common and misunderstood topics in the towing world, and that is how I can legally tow a heavy-duty trailer and haul serious equipment without needing a commercial driver's license or a CDL. Now, you've probably seen my setup quite a few times. I have a 2024 Ford F450, a big Gooseneck trailer that replaced a big Gooseneck trailer, and machines like my John Deere 50G excavator, bad boy tractor, zero turns, and a lot of stuff that's just relatively heavy. And people assume that that has to be commercial, right? That I'm essentially towing a commercial load and I'm gonna need a CDL, specifically a Class A CDL, because of the configuration of my truck and trailer and the weights associated. But the answer to that is no. And today I'm actually gonna break down exactly why I can legally tow with the license that I have, and how my YouTube channel actually plays into it without violating any laws. Now, big disclaimer. This episode is for entertainment and educational purposes only. I'm not a lawyer or a Department of Transportation officer or any other type of, I guess, expert in this field. I'm basing everything off of the laws that I've researched personally for my application. So laws can vary a lot from state to state. So always do your own research, check with your local licensing authority, and don't just take my word for it, because your state and your situation could be different than mine, and I don't want to try to make anybody believe that this is universal to every state or every single person. So of course, do your own research. So first of all, let's talk about my setup, my truck, my trailer, and equipment. So let's start with the basics, right? My truck, it's a 2024 F450 Platinum. It has a gross vehicle weight rating of 14,000 pounds. That's basically the manufacturer's registered rating on that vehicle to show how much that truck should never weigh more than. So 14,000 pounds includes the empty weight of the truck, plus all passengers, equipment, cargo, trailering weights, hitches, things like that. And it should never exceed 14,000 pounds total combined. Now, the GCWR of my rig, which is the gross combined weight rating, which essentially means the weight of the truck itself fully loaded that it was rated to by the manufacturer, which is 14,000 pounds, as well as whatever you tow behind you, the rating, not the actual weight of it, but the actual rating that was put on the sticker. So you don't go by what you physically loaded into it, you go by what the manufacturer says the trailer is rated to carry. So the total GCWR that Ford publishes for my truck that I should not exceed is 43,500 pounds, which is absolutely insane for a light-duty dually pickup truck. And a light-duty pickup truck is considered anything with a GVWR of 14,000 pounds and below. And then the different classifications kind of come into play at that point. So the payload capacity on my truck, if you look at the door, is a hair under 5,000 pounds, pretty close to 5,000 pounds. I don't know exactly what it is offhand, but I've talked about it in several videos in the past, and actually somebody recently corrected me because I was putting the wrong number out there based off of a truck I had recently reviewed, which was actually a Ram truck. That said, The trailer I tow, or one of the trailers I tow, I have a lot of trailers. I have like 9 trailers. But the heaviest trailer I tow is a 2025 Texas Pride deck over Gooseneck trailer. Brand new trailer, featured it multiple times on the channel. So it's titled in my personal name and not a business name. That's a big part of this. Now let's go over the cargo that I could tow on this trailer. So the biggest piece of equipment I have is a John Deere 50G excavator. Weighs about 10,500 pounds in a base configuration, but in my configuration, it's closer to 11,500 pounds because it has the counterweight on the back, the long boom, and some of the buckets are heavier, plus it's a cab unit with air conditioning, so it has extra weight there. I have a bad boy 3026H tractor, which I may upgrade to a larger tractor in the near future, but right now it's a bad boy tractor, weighs about 4,000 pounds. It's not a terribly heavy tractor. I occasionally tow my Skag Cheetah 2 commercial mower, which is actually a really heavy, large commercial zero-turn mower. And also I have a Toro 2000 HDX series commercial zero-turn mower as well. I've done videos on all of this equipment. So the combined gross vehicle weight rating of my truck plus the trailer is 39,000 pounds. My truck, again, 14,000 pound GVWR. The trailer, which I derated to 25,000 pounds GVWR, you add the two together, the ratings, not the actual weight, and that gives me 39,000 pounds GCWR. So the combined weighting, gross combined weight rating of both. It's heavy, but legally it's not just about weight. Now let's talk about CDL rules. So to have a commercial driver's license, you have to be using your setup for commercial paid for applications. And that's really, really important to understand as we move through this conversation, because if you receive payment for your transportation services, then you are required at that point, if you're over a certain weight, to have a CDL. So again, it comes down to legal application of needing a CDL because you plan on getting paid for a job, whether or not it is payment in somebody taking you out to dinner, somebody giving you $40 to move something around for them, or you doing it as an actual job. Maybe you're a hotshot driver or a commercial operator that tows equipment around all over the place, right? If you're getting paid by somebody for your transportation services and you are over certain weights, you need a CDL. That's the best way of saying it. So a CDL is legally required when all 3 of these apply. Number 1, a combination weight rating, a GCWR, that combined weight rating of the truck's rating and the trailer's rating exceeds 26,001 pounds or greater. So if you're at 26,001 pounds or greater and you are doing any work for pay, then you need a CDL. If the trailer's GVWR is more than 10,000 pounds, and this is where a lot of RVers can find themselves in trouble if they are accepting payment for moving something around over 10,000 pounds. If the vehicle is used specifically in commerce as defined by the FMCSA and or DOT. In other words, just being heavy isn't enough to require CDL. It comes down to use. Here's what I don't do, because if I did any of these, that would change things entirely. I don't use my truck and trailer for paid hauling. Basically, I don't charge people to move anything around. Everything I have is my own stuff, and I move it to my own projects, and I don't charge for it. I don't move equipment as part of a business or for hire, which means I don't move anybody else's stuff, and I don't move my own stuff to make money off of it in terms of transportation use. So I'm not hauling my excavator to clear out somebody else's piece of property and having them pay me in any way for that type of service. I don't transport gear in exchange for any type of compensation. So if a buddy of mine calls me and says, hey man, I know you got a trailer, can you move my old car around? I'll pay you 20 bucks for fuel. I don't do that. That is one of those scenarios where you can easily say, hey, it's just 20 bucks. But if you're accepting any type of compensation for your transportation service, you technically would be required to have a CDL if you meet any of those weight requirements that I talked about earlier. Here's what I do. I haul my own equipment for my own property. I use it occasionally for charity work, volunteer projects, or family help, and I don't charge anybody for it. Now, here's something a lot of people wonder. Because I have a monetized YouTube channel, does that change anything? It actually doesn't, because I can actually use my YouTube channel to film my setup, because it is a monetized channel, but since I'm not using my trailer and equipment for commercial hauling, and my YouTube channel is for entertainment and educational purposes only, I'm not crossing lanes, if that makes sense. So let's dive a little deeper into a monetized YouTube channel. Does that make me commercial? Short answer is no, right? I get this question all the time. If you're on YouTube, does that make your use commercial all of a sudden? Here's why it doesn't. The truck and trailer are not being used to deliver paid transportation services. I'm not operating a hauling, excavation, or commercial contracting business. The video content is for educational and entertainment, not transactional for hauling or transporting goods. Revenue from YouTube ads is based on views, not on payment for using the equipment. So even though my YouTube channel is monetized, the equipment use itself remains private. I'm not going to get paid to move equipment. I'm not going to get paid when people watch me talk about it. That distinction matters legally because according to the FMCSA and most state DOTs, if the vehicle is not being used to transport goods or people for compensation, it's not commercial use. So filming doesn't change that. Now, let's talk about my license. I have a Class A non-CDL in the state of Texas. Now, since my trailer has a gross vehicle weight rating over 10,000 pounds and the combination vehicle rating exceeds 26,001 pounds, Texas requires a Class A license, but not necessarily a CDL or a commercial driver's license. Because my use is strictly non-commercial, I qualify for a Texas Class A non-CDL license. Now, this license is specifically designed for private citizens towing heavy trailers for personal use, whether it's an RV, a hobby farmer, or people like me moving my own equipment on my own land and possibly moving it for charity work or free work that I'm willing to do. Okay, so let's be real for a second. Just because I'm legal doesn't mean I'm invisible. And it definitely doesn't mean I won't ever get pulled over by a DOT or law enforcement officer. In fact, with my setup, I absolutely could be pulled over. So if you're towing something that looks commercial, a big excavator or tractor, even a couple zero turns, an officer has every right to stop and inspect you. They don't know your intent just by looking at you. Your rig looks commercial, so they may want to verify whether you're hauling for business, getting paid, operating legally with the right license and insurance. This is where things can get tricky because even if you're doing everything by the book, it still comes down to how well you can explain your case. So, what would a DOT or DPS or law enforcement officer check for? Well, if I were pulled over today, here's what I might expect an officer to actually ask me for or to inspect. Is there any signage on my truck or trailer that suggests I'm a business? Is my trailer registered to a company or is it personally registered? Do I have commercial insurance instead of personal insurance? Do I have a DOT number or a logbook in my vehicle, or am I using ELDs for electronic logs? What's the nature of my cargo? What does it look like? Is it work gear? Is it commercial gear? They're also likely to ask you questions like where you're headed, what's the purpose of the trip, is this equipment for you or is it somebody else's? Is it a business? Is it somebody else's gear you're hauling for them? Those types of questions. And most importantly, are you getting paid to haul this? If you say the wrong thing or even sound unsure, that could trigger a deeper inspection. So here's the reality. Even though I know I'm operating legally, a DOT officer could still question whether I'm being truthful. If they believe I'm actually using the rig for business purposes and I don't have a CDL, a DOT number, medical card, logbook, or ELD, I could absolutely be cited for operating a commercial vehicle without proper credentials. I could be forced to offload the trailer. I could face fines or even impoundment. Now, that doesn't happen in most cases for private haulers, but it can happen, and that's why being prepared really matters. So what do I do to protect myself? This is really where you need to understand what you should do. First and foremost, My truck is titled and registered to me personally, not a company. My insurance policy clearly states my personal use only. I carry a Texas Class A non-CDL, which is valid for what I tow and for my private hauling needs. I keep a written statement in my glove box actually explaining the use of my equipment, that it's private, non-income generating, and it's not a business. If I'm ever questioned, I can point to a document that backs up what I'm saying. And this is an important one because I actually have the documentation from the FMCSA, DOT, and Texas DPS with me at all times, so I can share the information. And I'm sure there are some officers and some enforcement folks out there who don't know all of the details around it, and it never hurts to have refreshing material with you just in case there's any question at all. But most of the time they would have a resource that they could actually look up to find the information out on their own. Now here's another thing that comes up, and I'll talk about it briefly again. So some folks worry that filming and earning revenue from YouTube makes their hauling commercial. So simply filming and sharing content about your personal use, even if your channel's monetized, does not make your vehicle use automatically commercial. I'm not hauling equipment for someone else. I'm not getting paid to move gear. The truck and trailer are not being used to perform services. The YouTube channel earns revenues from ads, not from transport. So unless I'm filming myself doing paid work or promoting hauling services, there's no commercial use involved. Still, if a DOT officer sees a camera or knows about the channel, they might ask about it. And that's why I'm always ready to explain it clearly and confidently. So what do you do if you are pulled over, right? These are questions people are gonna have. Well, if you ever get stopped, here's what I personally recommend. Stay calm and polite. These officers are just doing their job. Answer questions honestly, but stick to the facts. Have your documents ready, registration, insurance, and driver's license. Clarify your use. This is my personal equipment, only used for private purposes. I'm not a business and I'm not hauling for profit, and nobody's paying me a penny for anything that I'm doing. If you have a YouTube channel, just say I film for entertainment only, not commercial transport. The more prepared you are, the better it will go. So to wrap things up, yes, I tow heavy, I film it, and I am legal. But I also know that being legal doesn't mean you're never gonna get questioned. If your rig looks like a work truck, then the burden is on you to prove that you're not using it like one. So take it seriously, be proactive, carry your paperwork, and most importantly, know your state laws. Mine's Texas, yours may be different. This isn't just about staying legal, but it's also about avoiding headaches and being smart out on the road. I know this is a tremendous amount of information. Hopefully it's all pretty clear. Again, always do your own research and make sure you're doing things legally and correctly. Guys, I sure hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, and we'll talk to you again very soon.